Here's a very interesting juniper. I'm always lucky that I have so many customers that bring trees to me for restyling. And this is a tree that apparently he purchased from me when I started the nursery back in 1985-86. And our first imports were in 1987 or 89. So this tree he has had in his possession for about 30 years. But he hasn't done much to it in all that time. Some of these early trees, I used to do all sorts of funny things, and one of the funny things that I always used to do was to twist the branches. So if we had several branches which are close, I used to wrap it round to make the branch thick. I did it with one of my Blow's junipers as well. So that was a signature that I used to have in the early days, but I'm not sure if I would do it now. And my photographer here was asking me, what variety of Chinese juniper is this? Some of you may have read in my books, like Bonsai Secrets, I go through all the different types of Chinese juniper. So Chinese juniper is Juniperus chinensis, and I think the actual species, it is debatable what it is, but whatever it is, we all know this as Chinese juniper. But this is the variety I think they call Kisu, K-I-S-U or K-I-S-O-O. The more contemporary or fashionable one is called Itoigawa, which the foliage is slightly different and much finer. So you can see the difference between the two types of foliage. This one here is Itoigawa and this is Kisu. So it's just a little botanical point that I want to show you. This tree came in for repotting, and then he said, why don't you restyle it for me? So my staff have repotted this tree. It came in a much smaller pot. The pot was only this size. So as you can see, this tree is very, very flat, and it's going to be quite a job thinking how I can restyle it without having to destroy the shape too much. This almost is like raw material or semi-trained material when it gets to this stage. And also if you start hacking it about, all you will end up with are thick branches. So it's going to be quite a job deciding what to take out, how to restyle it. You see that's becoming like a new leader there, shooting out, and the branches are so thick. Look at it, the branches are very, very thick. So it is just a glorified bush. So this is going to take a lot of thought. Let me just do a little bit of pruning. I haven't brought my chainsaw or my bolt croppers, so don't be worried, I'm not doing that. So let me just do a little bit of selective pruning, gentle pruning, and see if I can improve the shape a little bit doing that. It is so dark and dense inside. You just look at it. When it's so dense, the tree doesn't become healthy because lack of light, you get a lot of dieback. So this is the problem with this. So it has to be thinned out from time to time. So if we look in the middle, all this dead is from lack of light. So the first thing I will do is literally go through the entire tree and take all the dead out. I will do that for a start and see where I get. So I will spend some time just taking the little dead twigs out. Very boring task. I don't want to take up your time to show you that. This sort of thing I'm going to take out. And after doing that, I will show you the tree again. So this is a very problematic tree. And because it's so dense at the top and has never been pruned for 30 years, it is virtually semi-trained material. And the branches are so long, I can't get short branches out of it, and junipers are very hard to bend back on themselves. So let's see, but I always say that nothing is impossible. So what are the options? First of all, because this side is more open than the other side, this side, so clearly I will have to stay with that side as the front. Although, having said that, I would still like to keep an open mind, because you never know what you can get. And they've used all sorts of funny techniques, I notice, you know, wrapping branches around each other to get thick branches. It depends how the roots spread into the soil. That will also determine the front or the back. And if this has got character, I'm not sure. Now this gentleman I know fairly well, so usually customers that I know quite well, they trust me not to ruin the tree. So I'm lucky in that respect. So I'm looking at it quite radically. Although I said that this should be the front because it's open, if you look at the roots and the trunk, and then if we turn it round and if we come close, look at the root base there. The root base on this side is more interesting than the other side. You see, this going into the ground is very nice like that. And it's got more movement. So I will keep an open mind. And as I say, you never know, this might turn out to be the front eventually. So I will try and see what I can get out of this. Now, in order to make a tree look big, we need thin branches rather than thick branches. So I will have to think radically to see how I can get this tree looking big rather than looking small. So I will do some radical pruning. So when people hear me say that, they get a bit worried. So let us do radical pruning, something like that. A lot of cuttings. If I can just show you a little technique which these Japanese growers have done. You see this little branch here? They've taken it up and then wrapped it around the branch. So this thin branch is almost like a tonoki. He's taken it up and wrapped it. I'll just unwrap it to see. After 30 years, it hasn't fused, so what's the point? Can you see what they did? Like this. In the hope that it makes a thicker branch. Same thing done there. Same thing done here as well. So this is a technique sometimes used to thicken a branch. Although I've done it, it's not everyone's cup of tea. So I still am attracted to this side as a possible front. It certainly is attractive looking at it this way. Still looking at this side as the front. Now this branch here, I'm going to do something quite radical. Because it's just a bush, let's get something nice out of it. So I'm going to do a jin here. I'm going to take this branch off. This massive branch is coming off. So I'm going to break this and make a jin. So partly cutting the branch there, and then I'm going to rip it back. So this is how we make jins. I'm opening up the front. That's why I'm doing this. I will refine it in a minute. I won't rush to do it. Okay, also this one I don't think I'm going to use. Look at all that. In order to make it a big tree, I'm going to try and emphasize the trunk. At the moment, there's so much foliage that the trunk is not emphasized. It looks like a small tree. So I'm going to introduce quite a bit of jins. This. We may have to repot it at a slightly different angle when we're done with it. Too close, I'm going to make a jin out of that. Some more jins. That will be jinned. think this is doing nothing. So I'm going to jin this one. Look at it. I've taken already more than half the tree off. I hope you get an idea of what I'm trying to achieve. Now that I've removed those thick bushy branches, the trunk is getting emphasized, so the trunk is looking much thicker, and it's beginning to look like a mighty great tree that you would find in the forest. I wouldn't consider this side as a front now. As I said, I did think this was the front. I think this tree is going to be more dramatic from this side. So the rest is just bits of wiring. So, for those of you who are fairly new to bonsai, I'll just show you how we complete the jins. That's the simple part. We just make it into more of a point. And then with the jin pliers, we peel the bark away. Of course, with the live wood, the bark comes away easily. Even these I will refine. This is very tedious work. Crush the bark, get the bark off. You take yours, and this is where the fun lies. You can have great fun doing this. So if you pan the camera up, you look up, it's almost like a great big mighty tree with that massive trunk. I'm going to wire these branches down. I will tighten everything up, give it an apex, and then we will see where it goes. So you have to now let me just do some wiring. I'm going to show you, you see how we tear this, and that bark will just tear away naturally like that. You see like that, see that lovely effect there? So that's a nice natural jin that I've got out there. So the front of the tree is going to be probably from this side, and I'm just going to wire these close to get more of a conical shape, and then I'll see what the tree looks like. So the rest of the work is just tedious wiring, if you don't mind. And so the next stage is cleaning the bark, because the bark is so dirty. I'm getting Josh here to just brush it with the wire brush, because before I wire I need to brush it, because after I put the wire on it'll be difficult to brush it off. So all the loose flaky bark we will get off. So there's quite a lot of loose stuff here, and a lovely red color will appear. So I reckon I've now taken more than half the tree out. I think I've taken about 60% of the foliage and branches off. Look at all that. Look at all that. That's all been taken off from there. But we will end up with a very tall, stately tree, and it will look like a mighty sequoia, something that you would find on the west coast of the United States or Canada. And this is the image I'm trying to create. I'm going to do some wiring, but the wiring I'm going to do is going to be on the slightly thinner branches. These very thick branches are almost impossible to bend, so I'm not going to try and wire them. But I'm going to try and wire these little things to make into pads and tighten the crown. So these are the bits I'm going to wire. So I'm just going to find pairs and do it. Again, no big deal. So I'm just going to show you what we do. The hard work has already been done, and the hard work was taking the decision to make this a tree that emphasizes the trunk and having thinner, smaller branches. This is something that many amateurs are afraid to do. They just let it grow and then they lose control and it ceases to look like a big tree. So when we try to make a bonsai image, we are trying to create things that look like mighty trees. So hopefully when I'm finished with this, you will get a mighty tree image. So I wired those two, I'm going to wire these two. So everything in pairs is going to be done. There's no special secret, it's just finding suitable pairs of wires and then linking them together. I really think that watching it is not as interesting as actually doing it. So I do hope you enjoy watching it though. This is going to be the front from here. still looking at this as the front. So that's going to be a pad. This is going to be a pad. So I've got that slightly conical shape. Now this is going to be a back branch that I can use, but I don't think I need all of that. So I'm going to probably remove some of this, take it off there. And this I can probably wire and bring back on itself like so if I want to, so I can camouflage that and then just wire all these together. So it's just a massive wiring exercise, no more than that. Okay, so today is the Saturday and it is the 22nd of February and I've been a busy boy. I have done 2 major trees. I've done this great big Japanese white pine, reshaped it, and then I've worked on this Chinese juniper. So can you see? This is a tree I've taken more than 60% of the branches and foliage off and I've transformed the tree. So if you can recall what I talked about, this was the front originally, but we've decided to change the front and I've now made this the front. So it's got the image of a tall big tree. If you look at it from low down, this is the image of the tall big tree. I don't want to do any more refining wiring, but this is as far as I got. But because this was originally the front, the angle of planting is wrong, the position in the pot. This is the front, so I've got to reposition it. Fortunately, this tree was repotted only 2 days ago by some of our staff, but because I don't like the position, I'm going to redo it. It doesn't matter that it was done 2 days ago because it's all fairly fresh and the tree won't suffer if I take it out and reposition it. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take the tree out. So you can see, as I said, it was only done recently, so I'm not bothered at all. So, I'm going to reposition the tree, because the tree has to be like so. So I've got to take some of the soil from here. So let me bring my teasing tool. call that? I always like to tie the tree in so that it doesn't fall out. There we go. But this was all the new soil. I'll put that new soil back in. So you see that juniper soil, lots of Japanese pumice, akadama, and our standard bonsai mix, which is bark. Lots of bark in it. This is the tree. I don't mind it leaning slightly. Lost the image. I'll just put some more soil. The final shot was when I put some moss to surface dress the tree, and I will also refine the jins a little more. So this tree, in fact, doing this work has only taken me, I was surprised it would take so little time. I think it's only taken me about a total of hour and 45 minutes, not even 2 hours, to change that tree from the original bushy shape to this shape. So all I need to do is refine it, refine the jins, put some moss on it, and I will show you a final shot perhaps tomorrow. Right, today is another day. It's Sunday today, and I worked on this tree the afternoon of Saturday, and in about, I think it was less than 2 hours, I transformed it from that great big beast into something like this. And as you can see, look at all the stuff I removed. These are all branches that I removed, all that from this tree. So I reckon I took, I would say safely 60, maybe 70% of the tree, because it's so badly overgrown, to come to this stage. But looking at it critically, I'm still not that happy with it, because it still looks too massive. I tried to give the impression or the image of a tall tree that you would find in these great big forests with a massive trunk and with branches hanging around it. But the top seems to be a bit heavy. But I know that you get trees like this in nature as well with a heavy crown. But for the purposes of the bonsai, I still think it's too heavy. So I'm going to work on it to see how I can improve it. This side, I think, certainly is a bit too heavy. So I'm going to work on this and then see what happens. So I pointed out what the defects are, and I'm going to try and correct it, because there's always room for improvement. Even this side is too heavy. So I'm going to work on it and then show you the end result. I'm looking at the tree critically, and the right hand side seems to be a bit too dense. So it's this portion that I want to reduce much more. And then also on the left side, it's too long. I'm trying to reduce that. And the density at the top, I'm going to try and thin out. So that is the aim at the moment. Okay, so I've done some final tweaking to the tree to improve it further. So the image I've tried to get is one of these tall cedar type trees that you find in the Canadian Rockies or in the Canadian forests. And I have here Matthew, who is from Thunder Bay, doing the filming. And this is what I've done. If we look up the tree, Matthew, if you come and take a view from here, you'll get the ideal scale of a tall tree. So this is the image I've been trying to create of a really tall tree growing in a forest. And as you can see, the amount of debris we've got rid of. Look at all that. Look at all that we have discarded just to get that image. Right, it just occurred to me that to finish the tree off, I might as well put some moss on it. It's mainly to take a photograph than anything else. So this is the moss we get from the paths. Lots of it growing because everything is so damp in this country. So we have moss growing all over the place. So we love doing this, you know, just putting moss, tidy it up. Some people are better at doing this than others. Try and get moss that is as thin as possible. If it's too thick, then it may be what we call over egging the pudding. We get some of the weeds out. If there are weeds, don't let the weeds grow, otherwise the weeds will take over. I believe in Japan, even when they have exhibitions, they go around foraging for moss. So it's a standard practice to what we call top dress the tree. I always say that when you put moss on the tree, it makes the tree look as if it's been growing there for years and years. So we're adding age to the tree just by putting this on. There are different types of moss, but it doesn't matter. The different textures of the moss also adds to the beauty of the tree. So I've already covered half the pot. I'll continue to do it. We don't use any moss killer on the nursery, so this moss just grows around and it gets used. Our customers who come on our workshops just love the moss, and yet they wonder whether they have to buy it or is it specially grown. No, it's not specially grown. They just grow wild. So this, you remember, was the former front of the tree, but we've made this the back of the tree now. So again, we make sure we don't put too much of the moss that has weeds on it. Sometimes you can dress it up by putting a little bit of akadama just for contrast. Just letting your artistic skills come to the fore. Here again, there's some weeds, so we don't let the weeds grow. So this was a former back, and this is in fact now the front of the tree, and that is how we finish off all the work that we've done. So we take a close-up, we see the lovely texture, and then we take an overall shot of the tree, preferably from a low angle, and then that gives the impression of the tree growing in a mighty forest with the entire tree. And there you go. So that's the final shot, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing me doing this one.